Grand Admiral Reed stood at the observation deck of the Earth Defense Force flagship Asterisk, Humanity's Shield Asterisk, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. The massive view screen before him showed countless red dots approaching the outer edges of the solar system. Each dot represented an enemy warship, part of the largest fleet humanity had ever detected. The Galactic Empire had finally found Earth. "How many ships, Commander Blake?" Reed asked, his voice calm despite the situation. Blake, a younger officer with sharp eyes, consulted his quantum tablet. "Over 3,000 warships, sir. Their smallest vessel is bigger than anything we have." Reed nodded slowly. For 30 years, humanity had watched the Empire's expansion across the galaxy. While they conquered species after species, Earth remained hidden, protected by the revolutionary quantum stealth technology. They used this time wisely, preparing for the day the Empire would eventually find them. That day had come. "Send the message," Reed ordered. Blake pressed a few buttons on his console. On the main screen, a simple text message appeared, translated into the Empire's standard language. Asterisk, turn back. This is your only warning. Asterisk. The response came quickly. The Empire's communication officer appeared on screen, his purple-skinned face showing clear amusement. "Primitive species of Sol system," he announced. "Your attempted intimidation is noted but irrelevant. The Galactic Empire brings civilization to backward worlds. Prepare for integration into our empire." Reed watched the transmission end, his expression unchanged. "They always choose the hard way," he muttered. In the following hours, the command center buzzed with activity. Reports came in from Mars Colony, the Jupiter defense stations, and the hidden bases in Saturn's rings. Every human military installation was ready, waiting for the order that would begin humanity's first interstellar war. "Sir," Blake called out, "Imperial fleet has passed Pluto's orbit. Their formation suggests they're using standard conquest protocols." Reed allowed himself a small smile. The Empire's greatest weakness was their predictability. They had used the same invasion strategies for 500 years, crushing primitive civilizations that could barely reach their own moons. But humanity was different. "Status of our stealth systems?" Reed asked. "Operating at full capacity, sir. They have no idea our fleet exists." Blake's voice carried a hint of pride. While the Empire had focused on energy weapons and shield technology, humanity had taken a different path. They had mastered quantum mechanics in ways the Empire never imagined possible. Reed walked to the tactical display, studying the holographic representation of the solar system. 5,000 human ships waited in perfect ambush positions, completely invisible to Imperial sensors. Each vessel carried weapons that would seem impossible to the Empire scientists. "Message from Earth Command, sir," Blake announced. "They're giving us the green light." Reed took a deep breath. In the past century, humanity had transformed from a planet-bound species into something the galaxy had never seen before. They had watched, learned, and prepared. While other civilizations focused on making bigger ships and more powerful lasers, humans had discovered how to manipulate gravity itself. While the Empire boasted about their faster-than-light drives, humanity had learned to bend time. "Send one final warning," Reed ordered. "Let's give them one last chance." The message was brief. Asterisk, you were warned. What follows is your choice, not ours. Asterisk. The Imperial fleet's response was to launch their first wave of scout ships toward Earth. Their arrogance was expected. After all, their scans showed no opposition, no defensive fleet, just a handful of primitive space stations. "All ships, prepare for Protocol Zero," Reed announced, his voice carried to every human vessel in the solar system. "Remember your training. Remember why we fight. And remember, we show mercy to those who surrender." Blake looked up from his station. "Sir, the Empire's main fleet has passed Neptune's orbit. They'll be in weapons range in 20 minutes. Reed nodded, his face set with determination. "Humanity has hidden long enough. Send the signal." Operation Revelation begins now. Throughout the solar system, 5,000 human warships prepared to materialize from seemingly empty space. The Empire was about to learn why humanity had warned them to run. The war for Earth was about to begin. Imperial High Commander Stone stood proudly on his bridge, watching the primitive solar system grow larger on his view screens. His massive flagship, Empire's Glory led the invasion fleet toward the third planet. Everything was going according to plan. Status report, Stone commanded, his voice filled with boredom. This would be his 100th conquest, and they all followed the same pattern. No resistance detected, sir, his sensor officer reported. Their primitive satellites are trying to track us. Their weapons are projectile-based. No energy shields detected. Stone smiled. Another easy victory for the Empire. He opened a channel to the fleet. Begin standard invasion protocol. Launch fighters and... Sir, his sensor officer suddenly shouted. Something's wrong. The empty space around the Imperial fleet wasn't empty anymore. In a single instant, thousands of ships appeared out of nowhere, surrounding the Empire's forces completely. They seemed to materialize from thin air, their dark hulls reflecting the distant sunlight. Impossible. Stone stumbled backward. Where did they come from? Why didn't we detect them? The human ships were smaller than Imperial vessels, but their formation was perfect. They had trapped the Empire's fleet in a three-dimensional web of warships. No one had ever surprised the Imperial fleet like this before. Sir, we're receiving a transmission, the communication officer reported, his voice shaking. Grand Admiral Reed's face appeared on the main screen. He looked calm, almost sympathetic. Imperial fleet, you were warned. Power down your weapons and engines. We will accept your surrender. Stone's face turned purple with rage. You dare. You think your primitive species can challenge the Empire? All ships, open fire. Show these humans the power off. He never finished his sentence. The human fleet didn't fire energy weapons or missiles. Instead, a strange wave of distortion spread from their ships. When it touched the first line of Imperial fighters, they simply stopped. What's happening? Stone demanded. The fighters, they're frozen in space, sir, his tactical officer reported. Time around them has slowed down. Our sensors show their crews are experiencing time at 1/100th of normal speed. Stone watched in horror as more waves of temporal distortion spread through his fleet. Ship after ship became trapped in bubbles of slowed time, their crews helpless to respond. Impossible, Stone whispered. This defies all known physics. A new signal came from a different human ship. Commander Blake's face appeared on a secondary screen. Your understanding of physics is limited, Commander Stone. While you were conquering peaceful worlds, humanity was learning the true secrets of the universe. The remaining Imperial ships tried to retreat, but the humans had positioned themselves perfectly. Every escape route was blocked. Stone watched as his mighty fleet was systematically trapped in temporal bubbles, leaving only his flagship and a few nearby vessels unaffected. Final warning. Reed's voice came again. Surrender now. Stone looked at his tactical display. 3/4 of his fleet was already trapped in time distortion fields. His remaining ships were reporting strange readings they couldn't explain. The humans had weapons that completely ignored Imperial shields, using principles of physics the Empire had never discovered. Sir, his second-in-command whispered, we should consider their offer. We can't fight an enemy that controls time itself. Stone gripped his command chair tightly. In all his years of service, he had never faced anything like this. These humans weren't primitive at all. They had simply chosen to develop their technology in completely different directions than the Empire. This is Imperial High Commander Stone. He finally spoke, his voice heavy. We surrender. As the remaining Imperial ships powered down their weapons, Reed's voice came one last time. A wise choice, Commander. Perhaps now you understand why we warned you to run. Throughout the solar system, Imperial crews watched in amazement as their time-frozen comrades were carefully released from the temporal fields. The great Galactic Empire had suffered its first defeat, and the galaxy would never be the same. The rings of Saturn glittered like diamonds in the sunlight. Commander Stone watched them from his new position aboard the human ship Asterisk, humanity's shield Asterisk. After surrendering, the Empire's leadership had been taken into protective custody. Now he was about to witness something that would change his understanding of warfare forever. Second Imperial Fleet detected, Blake announced from his station. They'd just entered the solar system. 5,000 ships, twice the size of the First Fleet. Reed nodded calmly. They never learn. Stone, your replacement seems determined to succeed where you failed. Stone watched the tactical display as the new Imperial fleet approached Saturn. Admiral White is ambitious. He won't surrender like I did. He'll try to use Saturn's rings as cover to launch an attack. Exactly as we predicted, Reed said with a slight smile. Begin Operation Avalanche. The massive Imperial fleet moved into Saturn's ring system, hiding their ships among the ice and rock fragments. It was a standard Imperial tactic, using natural cover to prepare for a surprise attack. But the humans had been waiting for this. All Saturn defense stations, activate gravity wells, Reed commanded. Stone's eyes widened as he finally understood. No, you wouldn't. We would, Blake said quietly. Watch and learn why challenging humanity was a mistake. Across Saturn's rings, hidden human stations activated their gravity manipulation technology. The billions of ice chunks and rocks that made up Saturn's beautiful rings began to move in ways that defied natural physics. By the Empire, Stone whispered. The rings of Saturn transformed into weapons. Streams of ice and rock, accelerated by artificial gravity fields, turned into deadly projectiles. The Imperial fleet found itself caught in a storm of naturally occurring bullets, each piece of debris moving at incredible speeds. Imperial ships are reporting massive damage, Blake reported. Their shields aren't designed to handle kinetic impacts at these speeds. Stone watched in horror as the mighty Imperial ships were torn apart by rocks and ice. The humans hadn't just developed new weapons, they had learned to turn entire planets and their features into weapons of war. Message from Admiral White, Blake announced. They're requesting immediate assistance. Reed's face showed no joy at the enemy's suffering. Offer them surrender terms, the same as before. But Admiral White wasn't ready to admit defeat. The remaining Imperial ships attempted to escape the ring system, only to find themselves caught in more carefully planned gravitational traps. Look at these readings, Blake showed Stone a display. Each piece of debris is being controlled individually by our gravity computers. We're not just throwing rocks, we're conducting an orchestra of destruction. The battle lasted less than an hour. When it ended, 1/3 of the Imperial fleet had been destroyed. The rest were trapped in a web of controlled debris, unable to move without risking their ships being torn apart. This is Admiral White. The transmission finally came. We request terms of surrender. Reed looked at Stone. Commander, would you like to explain to your colleague why resistance is futile? Stone stepped forward, his voice heavy with newfound respect and fear. Admiral White, the humans don't just have better weapons. They understand physics in ways we never imagined. They can control gravity itself. They can slow down time. They've turned Saturn's rings into the deadliest weapon I've ever seen. Surrender is not just wise. It's the only option. As the Imperial ships powered down their systems, Reed turned to Blake. Send word to Earth Command. Tell them Phase 3 is complete. The Empire needs to understand that every part of our solar system is a weapon in humanity's hands. Stone looked out at the now calm rings of Saturn, still beautiful despite their deadly demonstration. You could have killed us all, he realized. But you chose to show mercy. That's another difference between us and the Empire, Reed replied. We fight when we must, but we prefer peace. Remember that when you report back to your leaders. The Battle of Saturn, would go down in galactic history as the day the Empire learned that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology, it was their creativity in using it. Director Wells sat in her dimly lit office deep within Earth's intelligence headquarters, watching multiple screens displaying intercepted Imperial communications. The Empire's defeat at Saturn had caused chaos throughout their command structure. Now, it was time to reveal why humanity had stayed hidden for so long. "Show them," she ordered. Across the galaxy, every Imperial communication device received the same transmission. It wasn't a threat or a demand. It was simply information. The truth about human technology. On the Asterisk, humanity's shield Asterisk, Commander Stone watched the presentation with growing horror. This can't be real." "It is," Reed said quietly. "While your empire expanded across the stars, humanity took a different path. We didn't just develop new weapons. We changed our understanding of reality itself." The screens showed human scientific achievements that the Empire had thought impossible. Time manipulation wasn't just a weapon. It was how humans had gained centuries of research time in just decades. Their quantum stealth technology didn't just hide ships, it could hide entire planets. "But how?" Stone asked. "Why didn't you join the Empire when we first started exploring the galaxy? We could have shared this knowledge." Wells appeared on a nearby screen. "Because we watched. We saw how the Empire shared with other species. Take their resources, control their planets, force them to serve Imperial interests." More images flashed across the screens. Human ships using artificial gravity to move asteroids like chess pieces, soldiers in powered armor that could manipulate local time fields, weapons that could accelerate or slow down atomic decay at will. "Your empire thinks in straight lines," Wells continued. "Bigger ships, stronger shields, more powerful lasers. But humanity, we asked different questions. Why fight against gravity when you can control it? Why accept time as a constant when it can be changed?" In Imperial High Command, admirals and generals watched in stunned silence as they finally understood the full scope of their mistake. The humans hadn't just developed better technology, they had developed technology that the Empire had never even thought possible. "Look at this," Stone pointed to one screen. "They've mastered quantum entanglement communication. No delay across any distance. Our fastest messages take days to cross the Empire. They can coordinate their entire fleet instantly." Blake nodded. "And that's just what we're willing to show you." Director Wells has only authorized the release of technologies we've already demonstrated in battle. The implications hit Stone like a physical blow. "There's more." "Much more," Reed confirmed. "Your empire thought we were primitives because we didn't follow your path of technological development. You never asked why we chose to stay hidden." Wells appeared on the main screen again. "Commander Stone, your empire needs to understand something. We didn't warn you to run because we were afraid. We warned you because we didn't want to reveal how far ahead of you we really are." Throughout Imperial space, military commanders watched their worst fears come true. The humans hadn't just defeated their fleets, they had made Imperial technology look primitive in comparison. "Your empire has a choice to make," Wells continued. "We don't want war. We don't want conquest. We simply want to be left alone to continue our research. But if you force us to fight, you now know what you're really facing." Stone looked at Reed. "The Empire won't accept this easily. There will be those who want to steal your technology, to learn your secrets." "We know," Reed replied. "That's why we're showing you this now. Any attempt to steal our technology will fail. We've had centuries of relative time to prepare our defenses, thanks to our time dilation fields." As the presentation ended, silence fell across Imperial space. They had thought they were attacking a primitive species. Instead, they had awakened a giant that had simply chosen to slumber. The age of Imperial dominance was over. The era of human innovation had begun. Captain Grant stood at the entrance of the Mars defense bunker, watching the red dust storm approach. But this wasn't a natural storm. It was cover for the Empire's last desperate attempt to gain an advantage. They had launched a massive ground invasion of the Mars colonies. "They think we're weaker in ground combat," he said to his squad. "Let's show them how wrong they are." Through the swirling red dust, thousands of Imperial soldiers advanced toward the human positions. They wore their best combat armor, carrying weapons that had conquered 100 worlds. Their combat robots marched alongside them, their heavy footsteps shaking the Martian ground. "Enemy count?" Grant asked his AI combat system. 12,000 Imperial troops approaching, Captain," the AI responded in his mind. "Their armor is designed for high-energy weapon impacts. They expect us to fight like everyone else they've conquered." Grant smiled inside his powered armor suit. The Empire still hadn't learned. "All units, activate combat systems. Show them how humans fight." The first line of Imperial troops reached the outer defense line. They expected resistance, but the human positions seemed empty. Their sensors showed no movement, no energy signatures, no signs of life. Then the ground itself came alive. Hundreds of human soldiers in powered armor burst from the red sand, where they had been hiding using their quantum stealth technology. Their suits weren't just armor. They were personal time manipulation devices. "What kind of demons are these?" An Imperial commander screamed as he watched human soldiers move faster than his eyes could follow. Grant's troops weren't just fighting. They were dancing through different time streams. 1 second, a soldier would move at triple speed. The next, they would create a bubble of slowed time around a group of Imperial troops. "Their combat robots are trying to adapt," the AI reported. "Shall I show them our own?" Grant nodded. "Release the Guardians." From hidden bunkers across the Martian surface, humanity's combat AIs emerged. They weren't simple robots. They were quantum computers in mobile forms, able to predict and counter any strategy in microseconds. The Imperial troops found themselves facing an impossible enemy. Human soldiers who could speed up or slow down time at will. AI combat units that moved with perfect precision. And worst of all, the humans seemed to be enjoying the fight. "Look at their formations," Grant commented as he watched an Imperial platoon try to advance. "They're used to fighting in standard gravity. They don't know how to handle Mars' lower gravity combined with our gravity manipulation tech." He demonstrated by increasing the gravity under a group of Imperial soldiers, making them stumble and fall. Then, with a thought command to his suit, he decreased it, sending them floating helplessly into the air. "This isn't war." An Imperial officer surrendered, throwing down his weapon. "This is like fighting against gods." Grant landed next to the officer, his powered armor making no sound on the red sand. "Not gods," he said through his external speakers, "just humans who took a different path. You believed bigger guns meant better weapons. We believed understanding the universe's laws meant true power." Across the Martian surface, Imperial troops were surrendering in masses. Their weapons seemed primitive compared to human-powered armor. Their combat robots were toys compared to human AI systems. Even their best soldiers couldn't fight effectively when humans could control gravity and time itself. "Central Command," Grant reported. "Mars is secure. The Empire's ground forces are surrendering. Minimal casualties on both sides." Reed's voice came through his comm system. "Good work, Captain. How did their ground forces perform?" "Like everyone else who has faced humanity, Admiral," Grant replied, watching more Imperial soldiers lay down their weapons. They weren't prepared for an enemy who fights smarter instead of bigger. As the dust storm cleared, the Empire had learned another harsh lesson. They had mastered the art of conventional warfare over centuries. But humans had mastered reality itself. The Imperial Palace on Capital World was in chaos. News of the defeats at Earth, Saturn, and Mars had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Emperor himself hadn't been seen in days, hiding in his secure bunker as his empire crumbled around him. "Another system has declared independence," a nervous advisor reported to the Imperial Council. "The Green Star colonies say they won't fight against the humans." High Counselor Thompson, the Empire's chief diplomat, watched the holographic map of their territory shrink as more systems turned red, indicating rebellion or independence. In just 2 weeks, they had lost control of 30% of their worlds. "Show me the latest human transmission again," he ordered. The room filled with Director Wells's last broadcast. "To all species under Imperial rule, you've seen what happened when they challenged humanity. We fought not because we wanted to, but because they gave us no choice. Now, we offer you the same choice they denied us: freedom." On 1,000 worlds, alien species who had lived under Imperial control for generations were rising up. The humans had shown them something they had forgotten: the Empire could be beaten. "Message from Admiral Reed," an aide announced. The human admiral's face appeared on the main screen. He looked tired but determined. "Your empire is falling apart," he said simply. "Not because we destroyed it, but because you built it on fear and force. We're offering you one last chance to change." Thompson looked at the latest reports. The Imperial fleet was in disarray. Half their ships had surrendered to the humans. The other half were busy trying to control rebellions across the galaxy. And the humans? They hadn't even left their solar system yet. "What are their demands?" someone asked. "They don't have any," Thompson replied. "That's what makes them different. They don't want our territory. They don't want our resources. They just wanted to be left alone, and we were too proud to listen." On the colony world of New Hope, Imperial Governor Banks watched as his guards threw down their weapons and joined the celebrating crowds in the street. The natives, a peaceful species the Empire had conquered generations ago, were singing songs of freedom. "Sir," his assistant said, "the humans are sending ships to help maintain order during the transition. They say they'll ensure fair elections for all species." Banks looked out his window at the celebration below. "They beat us without conquering us. They changed everything without taking anything." Back in the solar system, Commander Stone stood with Reed on the Asterisk, humanity's shield Asterisk, watching the Empire collapse on their tactical displays. "I don't understand," Stone said. "You could take control of everything. Your technology, your weapons. You could rule the galaxy. Why don't you?" Reed smiled. "Because that's not who we are. Humanity spent centuries fighting among ourselves before we learned a simple truth. Real power isn't about controlling others. It's about controlling yourself." More reports flooded in. The Empire's oldest colonies were declaring independence. Species that had been bitter enemies under Imperial rule were forming peaceful alliances. The humans had done more than defeat an empire. They had sparked a revolution of hope. "Your leaders have a choice," Reed told Stone. "They can fight against the tide of freedom and lose everything, or they can help guide their worlds toward a new future, one where every species chooses its own path." In the Imperial Palace, the Council made their decision. Thompson drafted the message himself. "To all Imperial worlds and forces. The war is over. The Empire as we knew it is finished. Let us learn from humanity's example and build something better from the ashes." As the message spread across the galaxy, billions of beings looked up at their skies with hope. The empire that had ruled them for centuries had been broken not by force, but by the example of a species that chose wisdom over power. The age of empires was over. The age of freedom had begun. 1 year after the war, the Great Hall of the new Galactic Council on Earth buzzed with activity. Representatives from 100 formerly Imperial worlds had gathered to sign the Treaty of Soul, establishing a new era of cooperation between spacefaring species. The former Emperor, now simply Citizen First of his homeworld, stood at the podium. His once elaborate royal clothes replaced by simple diplomatic robes. His voice carried across the hall, heavy with the weight of history. "We thought we were bringing civilization to the galaxy," he said. "Instead, we were holding it back. Humanity showed us a better way, not through conquest, but through wisdom." Admiral Reed sat in the audience, remembering the battles that had led to this moment. Beside him, Commander Stone, Now Ambassador Stone of the Free Imperial Worlds nodded in agreement. "You could have destroyed us all," Stone whispered. "Your quantum technology could have reached our homeworld at any time. Your time manipulation could have frozen our entire leadership. Why didn't you?" Reed's answer was simple. "Because then we would have become what we fought against." Director Wells took the podium next, her presentation showing the changes of the past year. The former empire had split into peaceful, independent worlds. Trade routes had reopened, this time carrying knowledge instead of troops. Former enemies were now working together on joint scientific projects. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't our technology, Wells explained to the gathered representatives. It was our patience. We waited, we watched, we learned. When force was needed, we used it with precision and mercy. On the massive screens behind her, images showed the new reality. Former Imperial warships being converted into exploration vessels. The rings of Saturn, once a battlefield, now hosting the galaxy's largest scientific research station. Mars, where the ground battle had raged, now home to a training center where all species learned to use human gravity manipulation technology safely. But the biggest change, Wells continued, was in how we all view power. The Empire thought power meant controlling others. Humanity showed that real power is controlling yourself. Captain Grant, now head of the Combined Species Defense Force, stood and addressed the hall. His powered armor replaced by a formal uniform. "A year ago, we fought in the dust of Mars," he said. "Today, former Imperial troops train alongside human forces, learning not just how to use our technology, but why we developed it as we did. They're learning that the greatest victories don't require any battles at all." The former emperor spoke again. "We had mapped the galaxy, but humanity had mapped reality itself. We had conquered worlds, but they had mastered the fundamental forces of the universe. They tried to warn us to run. Instead, we learned to walk beside them." Blake, promoted to admiral of the new exploration fleet, shared the latest discoveries. With human quantum communication technology, the combined scientific knowledge of all species was advancing faster than ever before. Problems that had puzzled the Empire for centuries were being solved through cooperation. "We stand at a new beginning," Reed said as he took the podium for the final address. "Not as conquerors or conquered, but as equals. Each species bringing their own wisdom, their own way of seeing the universe. The Empire tried to make everyone the same. Together, we've learned that our differences make us stronger." As the Treaty of Soul was signed, a new age began. The humans had revealed their full capabilities, not just their weapons, but their philosophies, their sciences, their ways of thinking. They hadn't kept these secrets to maintain power, but to protect themselves until the galaxy was ready for change. Stone turned to Reed after the ceremony. "You know, when you first warned us to run, we thought you were afraid." Reed smiled. "We weren't afraid of you. We were afraid of what we might have to do to stop you. Sometimes, the greatest strength is knowing when not to use your power." As the delegates left the Great Hall, they looked up at the stars with new eyes. The age of empires and conquest was over. The age of wisdom and discovery had begun. Humanity had not just changed the galaxy. They had changed how every species thought about power itself. The warning to run had become an invitation to walk together into a better future.